Welcome to our first 6 o'clock evening session for the 2020 Niagara Leadership Summit for Women. You are here for a workshop called Meaningful Change Through Community Leadership with our guest, Kimberly Calderbank. Before we begin, I'll introduce myself as your moderator tonight. I'm Julie Roerson. Thank you again for coming back. Some of you I met earlier today. It's great to see many of you here tonight. And I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement. By acknowledging the land where we live and work as the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe people, many of whom continue to live and work here today. The territory where I am coming to you from tonight is Niagara region, which is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. This gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people today. And when we acknowledge this, it reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous people. As well, a few notes about the YWCA, the organization I'm representing tonight, and the host of the Leadership Summit. We are a local organization that stands for gender equity and gives a voice to those who are marginalized in our community. The YW offers emergency shelter and 3 stages of transitional housing for homeless women, men, and families. And we help our clients step by step break the cycle of homelessness and poverty for good. I also want to draw your attention to a few housekeeping items. Please take a look at our community guidelines on the EventMobi platform. We want to remind you that this is a safe and open space for all of our participants through the chat, through the discussions and breakouts you'll be participating in. If you have any concerns or questions, please feel free to reach out to me privately in the chat with questions as well. Again, I'll be moderating tonight and helping Kimberly with the technical details of her presentation. And now I'll introduce our expert speaker for you tonight. Kimberly Calderbank is an award-winning marketing professional with more than 15 years of experience creating award-winning marketing content, planning fabulous events, and helping her clients get better media coverage and exposure. She's partner and co-founder of Yellow Robot Marketing, a boutique digital agency with a hands-on focused approach located in the heart of Burlington. Kimberly has worked with large trade shows such as the Gourmet Food and Wine Expo, the Home Show, the Ontario Garden Show, the Sound of Music Festival. Her print and media engagement has included stints on Global TV, CBC, Breakfast Television, Glamour Magazine, the list goes on. She's worked with celebrities such as Roger Mooking, Brian Baumler, Jamie Oliver, and almost every Canadian band that's ever performed on Burlington's waterfront. If you haven't been to Burlington's Sound of Music Festival, it's a really great festival when we're able to do so safely. Kimberly is a true believer in the power of community. She sits on the board of directors at the Distress Center of Halton, is host of Community Cultures on Your TV, and she's a fierce promoter of business growth and sustainability. Recently, she ran for Burlington City Council. Give you kudos for that, Kimberly. She believes it's critical to see more women at decision-making tables. She's the proud mom of 2 wonderful little individuals whom she instills her passion for volunteerism and community engagement. Kimberly's going to be engaging you through breakout rooms and questions throughout her presentation tonight. And now I'm going to turn it over to her. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you everybody for having me this evening. And first of all, for just hosting this incredible event. I know you're in your 7th year, and I was on many of the calls today and just amazed by the women that are engaging both in conversation from leading sessions as well as the engagement that's happening in the chat. So I want to make sure that this is as engaging and connected as possible. So please do use that chat. Julie is monitoring it as well, and we will have some times for questions at the end. So please do make use of that. As well, just a little housekeeping. I'm going to speak for about 5 minutes on each of my topics, and then we'll go into breakout rooms where I'm really hoping to get as much engagement as possible from everyone. I know it's a difficult time being that it's 6 o'clock at night and some of us are at home and dinner. And so I very much so appreciate you being here, but would also love the engagement and the conversation, because I truly believe we are at our best and can learn our best when we're engaging with one another. So please do take that opportunity to engage. As well, when we do go into our breakout sessions, Julie will put into the notes the couple of questions that I'd love for you to discuss while you're in that breakout. I will come on and join each session throughout the hour we are together. Maybe not every question every time, but depending on how we do our breakouts, I will certainly be joining in to listen and engage in the conversation as well. And what I do ask is when you join your first session, please pick a leader that when you come back can just type one shareable nugget into that chat so everybody else that weren't necessarily in your sessions can hear. So we'll continue the conversation even while we are speaking. I also just wanted to say a big shout out to all the yellow today. I don't know who else has been online throughout the day. People would be shocked if they knew me that I am not wearing yellow. It is my color. I breathe yellow. My company is Yellow Robot. So it is very unlike me to not have yellow on, but many people did today. So a big shout out to all of those that got the color memo today, because that is a very positive and fierce color as far as I'm concerned. So I truly love seeing all the yellow. So we're here today to talk, or tonight to talk about leadership and, you know, what it's all about and ultimately what it means. And for me, I mean, there are so many components to who a leader is and what a leader brings to the table. But many of you are probably thinking, like, why am I listening to her? And who does she get to say that she's a leader? And I want to start off by saying that I firmly and truly believe that everybody is a leader in their own capacity, and everybody has the potential to grow their leadership even stronger. So who am I? I'm a public relations professional, so I'm a trained communicator. That's what I went to school for. I'm a proud Brock U graduate, and Julie, I know you know this as well, but today it was announced that a satellite location is opening up in Burlington. So Surgite, we are having Brock U in Burlington as well. So that's very exciting as a proud Brock University grad. I'm a marketing professional. I'm a daughter, a mom, and a partner. And as Julie said, I am a fierce community advocate. And your community truly to me is what fills my cup. It's what makes me passionate. It's what makes me get up every day. And what makes me drive to do better in my business. But community is this big, big word, similar to leadership. And often, people define community as where they live. If you were to ask my children, or when I speak with high school students, they often say, oh, your community is Burlington, it's Niagara, it's where you live. But I truly believe that community is so much more than that, and has such great potential. And I feel that tonight we've sort of created a community for ourselves already here in this conversation and in the breakout rooms that we're going to go into. So community holds so much power and is an exciting and big word. So the presentation tonight will go through 4 critical elements of what I believe leadership is. So that is harnessing your opportunities for leadership. That is the influence of community and volunteerism on leadership, perseverance and successful outcomes, and empowering women around you and the impact on lives on others. So those are the 4 breakout sessions that we're going to go through. I'll chat for a couple minutes on each, and then we'll go into breakout rooms and work together on what those all are. So how do you harness your own opportunities for leadership? And often when I'm chatting with women, or just in general about what leadership is all about, I often get asked, like, how do I grow my leadership skills? And how do I do better? And how do I develop? And as I mentioned, I truly believe we all have the power inside of us already, and we're all leaders in our own communities, in our own capacity. Your community could be your little pocket of family. It could be your work. It could be this community right here. We have a gathering of leaders. So what I often say is harness the opportunities and the leadership opportunities that you already have, and to start small and sort of look around you. So seizing the opportunities that are right in front of you. So I want everybody just to take a quick second and think about the communities that they engage with, whether it's their home life, whether it's their work, whether it's the gym, whether it's your volunteerism out in the community. Think of all those different little pockets of community, and then think of where you fit in and how you act as a leader in that space. we all have access to be a leader, whether you're helping in a soup kitchen or whether you're helping organize, the birthday club at work, whatever that is. Everybody had that little, leadership. So if you can stop and just think quickly of a time where you've certainly set yourself out. Tresha this morning had a poll and it talked about at what age did you see yourself and sort of your first leadership skills exemplified? And the majority of people who answered the poll actually said when they were young, when they were very, very young, in elementary school even. I don't know how many other people's report cards said, strong leadership skills when they were in elementary from their teachers. But that's something that we can harness at every level and certainly something that we can grow. An interesting statistic to me is that women actually make up over half of the Canadian population, yet still are underrepresented in the political and professional leadership positions, which is something that, as Julie said, I felt that I needed to take on myself, and I'll explain that a little bit later. But there's this fantastic report that was released about women in leadership, a local report for Hamilton Halton, and it was in 2017, and it talked about local public agencies, boards, commissions, the ABCs of sort of the government and providing governance over strategic making. And women actually, they set out a mandate to say that women in 2016 that they had a target of 40% of provincial appointments by 2019 to be women and to be in those leadership roles on boards and on decision making, because ultimately it's that trickle down effect. And given the data and what we see, there was a growth. They set out to grow. There was a growth. Halton slightly outpaced Hamilton from a gender balance, similar to Niagara. But women comprise now of 36.8 of all of those appointments. So we still have work to do. And I truly believe that it's putting yourself out there and asking, and we need to acknowledge and put ourselves out there. And I'll speak to that a little bit more as well. But if you wanted to check out the report for yourself, it is the YWCA Hamilton McMaster Accelerator report. And there is some wonderful leadership information there as well that I would suggest you taking a look at. So when we talk about leadership, as I mentioned, there's many different levels of leadership. And I found this really interesting when I was doing some digging about leadership in different parts of the world. In Middle East and Asia, there was a quote that came out that really stood out to me. And that was, every leader or every young woman that was interviewed talked about finding their voice and their leadership voice at first in their home, in their dinner table setting, sitting around with their family and actually having people listen to what they have to say. And isn't that sort of an aha moment to have people really recognize that what you're saying and what you put out is as important and should be heard? And I thought that that was really important to suggest in a leadership role, because not only do we have to be fierce and in charge and engage and lead, we also have to take a moment to sit back and to listen and to listen to others, because that truly is a big part of what being a leader is all about. We also know that women's engagement is essential to decision making. Women make decisions based on different ideals and different charts and different flows. So it's something that at the core of our values and our diversity and inclusion, women engage differently. And so having women in those leadership roles is so important to just the workplace overall. As well as policy development. I don't know how many people have seen all those quotes fly by often, and we all are on social media, and those social media memes about having women in charge. We make decisions thinking emotional and thinking science and statistics, and we're making very well thought out decisions. So very important to continue as women to be leaders, and of course to rise together and lift each other up as leaders as well. I wanted to share a little bit of a personal story in this area of leadership. when I was creating my bio, and I'm refreshing my bio to put forth for this experience. I was considering tasks in the workplace, but what I wasn't considering are other leadership roles that I have within the community. And I think often we don't include those as leadership potential and leadership opportunities in ways that we really sign. Isabella earlier today talked about self-leadership and owning our leadership skills and, you know, really relying on ourselves and promoting ourself. I also think that I call it friendly social stalking, but have you ever stopped and asked around and said, hey, if you were to describe me, what leadership skills do I have? Or how do I stand out to you as a leader in the community? Because when you're asking friends and socially seeing what other people are talking about you or engaging with you, I think it's a really powerful opportunity. And often we don't see ourselves as others do. So I wanted to just take this little excerpt here and move into our first discussion together, where we'll talk about how we've seen female leaders and women leaders in our communities. So as I mentioned, these are the questions that we'll be discussing in our workshops and breakout rooms. And I'd love to hear your thoughts when you come back again in the chat. So Julie, if you wouldn't mind putting these into the notes and then breaking us out into our first session, and we'll discuss there. And I look forward to hearing comments in the chat when everybody comes back.
Okay, I'm going to open the rooms, and you'll get a 1-minute warning when we're going to come back. And as a reminder, Kimberly asked if you can appoint someone to be your spokesperson. Here we go. See you in a few minutes. Hi, Jackson. If you just joined us, everyone's just gone into a breakout session for another 2 minutes or so. I'm not sure if you're just jumping on, but we will be back in about 2 minutes into this space. Welcome back.
I think I clicked on something I wasn't supposed to, and I ended up back here.
Oh, that's okay. Everyone's joining us in 5 seconds.
I know, but I'm the one that's supposed to be writing the nugget.
Oh, hello, welcome back.
Did we get everybody back? Everybody's good? Okay, we had a great conversation, but I don't know, that flew by as far as I'm concerned from a time perspective. We really were only able to engage in the first question. So I'm going to try to talk less so that we can engage more. So the next topic is the influence of community and volunteerism. And how much that really sets us apart in our leadership roles. Growing up, oh, yes.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you just for a quick second to say you'll have to reshare your screen for us.
Oh dear.
Sorry about that.
Huh. I don't even have the option anymore.
Did it come back for you?
No.
There we go. I can see it coming. Yep.
Are we back? Okay.
Thank you.
But now I can't see anything. My apologies, everyone. Let me just figure out how I can bring my screen back up.
sounds like you all are still having lots of good conversations about those questions, and I'm reading them in the chat. Nugget from room number 2. That's good. Questions were inspiring and lead and direct well. Thanks for your patience. And I want to give a shout out to Bernie, who says, I think I'm the only guy here. Bernie is our perennial volunteer. He's been around and a dedicated volunteer to Leadership Summit since day 1. There we go, Kimberly.
Actually, not since day 1, but no? I attended, but it was after that I joined the group.
Well, okay, everybody can see me, yes? Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Nope, but we can hear you, and I'm going to turn. We can hear you.
Oh my goodness. Oh, hello. Hi. Okay. My goodness. I'm so sorry. I am not going to leave to breakout rooms, I don't think anymore, Julie, because I think that's where when I lost my screen there. So my apologies. And thank you for staying. It looks like we didn't lose anybody. So I appreciate your confidence in my tech skills. So thank you very much. Okay, so topic number 2 is the influence of community volunteerism and leadership. And this is something that I am so very passionate about. Growing up in Burlington, I had many opportunities to volunteer and to network and to build community from a very young age. And I truthfully believe that this is ultimately why my career and my trajectory has been where it is, because of my ability and my opportunities to engage and to volunteer. I belonged to my youth group at a local church growing up, and we volunteered in soup kitchens, and we volunteered at the food bank. And I really got to know a lot of really engaged community stakeholders and leaders. And most importantly, they got to know me and who I was as well. And I truly believe that influence of having and knowing community and volunteering really helped my growth. One of the well-known benefits of volunteering is not only the impact on community, but the internal impact and how good being a part of our community and volunteering makes us feel. It allows us to connect with our community and make it a better place. And at the end of the day, doesn't that just make everything that much better? Having community at the center of your life just pays out dividends when it comes to increasing your social and your relationship skills. And of course, connecting with like-minded people. Right here, as I mentioned, we have a community, and we have a community of like-minded people that ultimately care and are engaged and are looking to educate and learn more. So I really hit it off with some of the women that are also participating in the conference later this week, because we're all like-minded and we all want and hope for the same things for our community and ourselves. As I mentioned, community involvement for me has been a huge factor in the success of my business as an entrepreneur and a community member. And I'll just share really briefly here. When we started Yellow Robot, I started it because a community organization came to me and said, I need some work done. Can you do this on the side? And I was happy to do the work, and we did the work. And then they were like, okay, well, now you're going to invoice us, right? And I was like, wait a second, I'm going to be paid to do something that I love to do. This was a not-for-profit. And I had thought I was just, donating my services and time, which my business partner will remind me is not always the best way for business growth. But I went out and I said, no, this is a donation. And they said, well, we're going to hire you. We want to have you do this on a regular basis. You got to come up with a business name. You gotta do this. And so slowly we put out into the community that, yeah, okay, this is what I do. And I'm in marketing and communications, and I'm going out on my own, and I'm starting Yellow Robot. And sure enough, all of those organizations that I had volunteered for or worked with all had board members that knew my passion and drive for our community and knew the work that I would do and started hiring me. And it was, you put the time and effort into your community. I truly feel that it will come back to you. removing barriers and opening doors allows women to access all sorts of positions of influence. Responsibility pays out in dividends, and it enhances our community. We spoke earlier about the notorious RBG as well, who we recently lost. And whatever community organization, whether it's a women's organization or fighting for racial justice, which is what we spoke about in my breakout room, you get the satisfaction of doing something and giving back to your community that you'll never get in any other way. And isn't it, again, a wonderful feeling to be able to give that to our communities? There's an estimation that in Canada, work effort has added over 2 billion hours with volunteerism to the work ethic in 2017. That's incredible, the amount of volunteerism that's happening out there in our midst. And so to get us just back on our agenda, I'd like to break out into our next session and talk about how volunteering has led to our own personal growth networks and what examples we can share with each other. So Julie, if you wouldn't mind putting up those next slides and breaking us out into our breakout rooms. Everybody can see my screen and I'm here and you can all see me. So we're making progress here. So the next topic, you don't hear anything. Is everybody else okay? Can everybody else hear okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can, okay.
No, I do.
You, Bernie.
All
No, I
right.
do.
Perfect. Well, welcome back, everybody. If you wouldn't mind just sharing that nugget into the chat as we did previously as well. I promise you by the time we get to topic 4, we are going to be on a roll. So the third topic here is perseverance and successful outcomes. So a growth mindset is about learning how to fail well and knowing that we learn from our failures, and that eventually leads to success. And I'm sure that was probably a theme throughout the conversations that you would have had as well when you were in your groups. Resilience is a big word. It's one of those big words like leadership, like community that we talked about earlier. And resilience is a term that we're hearing often. I have a good friend, Lisa Lisson, that speaks often of resilience and what resiliency means to her. And I'm not sure if any of you have read her book, but I certainly recommend Lisa Lisson's read Resilience if you haven't, because man, what a story and what a learning opportunity there as well. So as Julie alluded to at the beginning of our time together, I truly believe that we needed more women at the table. We needed more women engaged in decision-making at the municipal level. I shared with my breakout room that now we have in Burlington here, our MP, our MPP, as well as several of our municipal leaders are women, are female. And I truly believe that makes some pretty big, impactful and effective and change on our policy making and how we decision make, as we previously discussed. But I also decided to put my name in the hat and to run. It was a decision that I made in high school, in Mr. Mansell's history class when we were doing a project on local government. And man, did I get the bug. And with all my community involvement, I thought this is an opportunity for me to engage and to serve my community. So I ran. And spoiler alert, I lost. And I came in third, which I'm quite proud of myself. There were 7 people in the ward that I specifically ran in. And there was no incumbent. So it was a big opportunity for all of us. All of my material was yellow, as I'm sure some of you could imagine, but it was such a learning experience for me because from losing, I feel like I gained more than I would have perhaps if I had won that position the first time around. And I know we have a panel later this week on with some municipal leaders in governance, and I'm interested to watch because I'm wondering what their stories are and whether they'll tell the same thing. But ultimately, I learned more about myself and my perseverance and leadership skills from losing than I did from winning. I was at an event about a year ago or so, and the leader, the MC for the evening said, "Hi, I'm blah, 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 and I'm here tonight because I am a MC on Kojiko and I have a show and da-da-da." And she said, "And you know how I got that show? I called up Kojiko and I asked for a meeting and I said, I want to be a TV host. And they interviewed me and I got the job." And my mind was literally, I couldn't believe it. Wait, you can do that? You can just ask people for things and perhaps it'll happen to you. And so you know what I did? I too wanted to have a show on Kojiko and I too wanted to engage in my community. So I called our local Your TV Halton and I asked, "Can I have a meeting? Can I talk to you? I'm a strong leader in our community and I give back to our community and I have this idea for a show." And they were like, "Okay, come in, sure." So I went and I pitched Community Cultures. And the program was going to be all about how these little pockets of community effectively work together and give back to the community. And you know what? They accepted me. And so I'm going into my 2nd season as the host of Community Cultures on Your TV Halton because I asked, because I went out, I put myself out on a limb and I said, this is what I would like to do. And they accepted me. So you never know when you're ultimately looking at your next gig and when you're interviewing for your next gig and when you're out in the community and you're showing your passion and your leadership, you never know who's watching. And you know, the thing that Kojiko said to me is, "Oh, we saw you when you were volunteering at Sound of Music," or "We saw you working at this," and what a great idea. And so I always want to remind people that when we put ourselves out in the community, you never know who's watching or what may come of it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about when others have missed out on opportunities and how they've sort of bounced back or their resiliency strategies, and reflect on a time when perseverance and just asking for it worked out. So Julie, if you wouldn't mind sending us back into those breakout rooms, that would be wonderful.
I took a screenshot and took the question with me.
Bernie, you're back and I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Things are going well. We've all worked ourselves out as we've worked through this together. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. We are on our 4th and final slide, empowering women around you and making impact on the lives of others. This is something that I am so passionate about. And I know that through the conversations, I've heard mentorship and working together. And ultimately, this is what the conference is all about, rise together. And we do so much better when we work together and when we all lift each other up. So far, we've spoken about increasing our leadership skills, engaging with our community, growing personally and professionally, but coming all together when we uplift each other and one another. What a way, like what a power that we can all have in making impacts in the lives of others. I want to just quickly talk about my own personal mentorship. I personally mentor 4 incredibly young women across a wide age range, but I myself also have many mentors. And I think that there's a big opportunity we have for ourselves as well as our community when we offer as well as accept mentorship. And I learned this really great word from one of my mentors, and that was sponsorship. And I'm not too sure how many of you are familiar with sponsorship, but I see a very vast difference now in how we can use sponsorship and mentorship to work for us in our leadership roles. And sponsorship ultimately boils down to somebody that's in a room that's talking about you and rising you up and uplifting you when you're not there. Somebody who's putting your name forward and saying, you know, Carrie is this great person and you should definitely get Carrie on this board. Or you know who would do a really great job at this? Carrie. Or Bernie, he's awesome. You really need to take a look at Bernie when we're looking at this project or presentation. And that sponsor can do a world of wonder for you. And, you know, I often try and think of putting forth other people's names as well as a sponsor. And when we harness that ability to raise each other up and rise together and put forth other people, man, what a difference that we can make in our communities. We're not meant to break each other down. We're meant to build each other up. So use your voice both online to do just that, online and offline, sorry, to do just that. Build each other up and support each other. And that's a quote that's also on the screen here. And there's so much power in it. In today's digital world and space, we have no excuses to not lift each other and raise each other and to be positive. And again, that's why yellow is so important to me, because it's such a positive and fun and energetic color. And it's interesting because, as I mentioned, I ran in the election, and you know what people said afterwards? I saw your sign everywhere because it was different and it was positive and it stood out. That yellow, it was bright and it was so accepting and inclusive. And that meant so much to me, because that is ultimately what I was trying to achieve. So I want to just have our final breakout session very quickly, because I think it's very, very important that we share with each other how we've seen potentials in others and how we've both lifted others as well as been lifted by others. So if we could briefly just break out and chat about that and come back and join to wrap up. Julie, if you wouldn't mind sending us into those breakout rooms.
Kimberly, hold out.
Yes.
Everybody should take a picture if they can, or a screenshot of the questions, because we go to the breakout rooms and we forget what the questions are.
Okay, they also should be in the chat, Bernie. If you check your chat function.
We've never seen them. We've never seen them. No.
Okay. Have you got a shot of the questions, Bernie?
I've got a shot for my breakout room.
You are doing, thank you. Thank you for leading that, Bernie. Okay, Julie, we are ready to go. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Wow, an hour flies by, even when we have little technical difficulties. So thank you again, and I appreciate you all being here. I hope there was some engaging conversation in your breakout rooms as well. As I mentioned, I truly feel when we all engage and have a conversation together, we can really get some really good places. I want to just keep the conversation going though, because I feel like we all go to these sessions and seminars and workshops, and then it's like, now what? So what? What am I supposed to do now from here? So here are just a few actions we can take. Identify those around you, ask for referrals, ask for more conversations, keep that conversation going. We can ask questions for a job for yourself, or volunteer shadow. We can read. I'm such a firm believer in continuing our education. I know there was a question about the Lisa Listen book I mentioned. So reading and taking that all in is a way to continue to better our leadership skills. Volunteer or add additional volunteer opportunities to yourself. And as I mentioned just in this past session, mentoring somebody or being a mentor yourself, being a sponsor yourself, those are all great ways to continue that conversation going. I also get asked often, I love social media. There can be some really positives to it and there can be some negatives to it. I made a promise and a vow to myself, as well as my family and children, that I would never use social media in a negative way or make negative comments. I pride myself on making sure that anything I put out publicly is something that I would be proud of, my family would be proud of. And we see often, well, that tweet didn't live well. So I make sure that I am only positive. And so I often get asked, 3 women that you would share on social media that share positive, uplifting messages. I mentioned one already. Lisa Listen is the president of FedEx Canada, has an incredible job and his story, as I mentioned, great social media and great to follow, very inspirational. Professor Maya is a professor at McMaster University, an incredibly bright, and I use that term in all facets because she is a sequence day or night kind of woman, incredibly uplifting and powerful messages. So Professor Maya is another one. And most recently, Dr. Jennifer Kwan, a family physician locally and very topical as well with everything we're going through with the pandemic. Great uplifting messages, but also a really great way of showing her leadership and not stepping down. And I love what all three of them are doing on their social channels. In conclusion, and I hope that you've got this from across the board, and I hope I've made this loud and clear, you can do big things, and ultimately you have to just go for it and just put yourself out there. And yes, people fall and fail, but I love that. But what if you fly? And there's always going to be failure, but we learn from those failures. And I know somebody commented in the chat as well, just putting yourself out there for the election is the first step. And we often learn more from those failures. And how wonderful to hear that and to see that you're all thinking that way as well. In conclusion, and to wrap up, I'm Kimberly Calderbank. I have had a wonderful time with you this evening. Thank you for engaging and chatting with us. These are all the ways that you can get a hold of me. I've also put my cell phone number and my email there. Those are my personal contacts. Please reach out to me. I'm always looking to mentor, engage, or continue conversations. So please do use those as ways to get a hold of me. And I also love engaging on social media. I'm both active and listen. So please, if you would like to engage afterwards as well, please do so. I hope that you have all had some nuggets and some takeaways for this evening, and I look forward to further connecting with you all as we move through this conference together. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
And thank you, Kimberly. That was really great. And I wore my yellow today just for you. It's also my favorite color. And I'm going to use that every time to remember some of the nuggets from your presentation tonight. Thanks very much. And for everyone for tuning in. We hope we'll see you again tomorrow for the sessions that are taking place again throughout the day and also on Thursday. And I really love seeing some of these social media, like the positive social media handles and recommendations. I'm hoping that some of you can continue to share that too. I like to fill my curated social media list with positive energy and good news stories and experiences of women's leadership. So please keep that coming as well. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.